following on from that, I'm now going to hand over to Colette, and Colette is going to talk to you about how you might use forms when you're talking about marketing and sales with your clients.
Thanks, Si. Yeah, so today I want to talk about using that was great, Microsoft Forms, to look at doing surveys, because surveying your prospects and customers is always a great thing to do. The more we can understand our target audience, the more we can offer what they really need. And the more we can offer what they really need, then the more likely they are to buy from us. So customer surveys are really important because they can help a company shape its offering. They can help a company find out what it's doing right or what it's doing wrong. They can identify areas where customers might be struggling in their buying relationship with that business, and really just keep looking for ways to improve how they serve. And creating a customer-centric business is so important. Giving the voice to the customer is important, especially in these difficult times, because let's face it, when things return to normal, consumers are going to remember the businesses that were helpful and supportive. They'll also remember the companies that weren't helpful, but not for the right reasons. So surveys are only one of the ways that you can get feedback from your prospects and customers. Many social media platforms now offer you the opportunity to put out a poll, really to quickly gather people's thoughts. So it really just depends on how much and how quick and easy the questions are that you're wanting to ask. For example, if we were running a cafe and we wanted to gather customers' opinions on our opening times, we could quickly put a poll on social media saying, do you think we should start to open for breakfast? And people would be able to quickly click yes or no. So, I mean, as Si showed, surveys can really be any length, but they do tend to normally be longer than a poll, longer than a quick yes or no answer. So surveys help you understand more about your target audience, but you still need to keep your target audience in mind when you're putting a survey together, especially if it comes to the format of the survey to start with. So, think about your target audience. Is paper a better method than online for the people that you serve? You also need to think about the length and complexity of your survey. If your target audience is busy working mums who lack spare time to start with, then giving them a huge survey to fill in may not be the answer, but a short survey that they can fill in on their phone while their toddler plays could well be worth considering. Don't be disappointed that not everyone will take time to complete your survey, so do only bank on getting a percentage of your responses back. Depending on how important the information is to you, you might even consider incentivising the response. Maybe offer to put returned entrants into a free prize draw to win something they'd value, because that can normally increase the amount of people that are willing to take their time to participate to help you. How good a relationship your customer has got with you will also make a difference as to how much time they're willing to spend giving you their opinion. Bear in mind that long surveys and complicated questions can put people off. In fact, I started to fill in a survey the other day, and I normally like filling these in, being in marketing, because I like to help other companies, but I gave up just because the questions were such hard work. So make the questions short and clear and think about your terminology. Your customers might not understand your industry jargon, but if you're doing a survey with your suppliers, then it's probably safe to talk your industry language. It might be better, rather than sending out one huge survey, to think about doing shorter surveys more often, just to make it not so arduous a task for people to start to do. Now, there are many different types of surveys you can do. There are surveys to track market size and market growth. Some will track brand awareness. Some help you find customers. Others help you understand customer behaviour. And some will be about research for new products or services. But probably the ones you've most likely seen are the customer satisfaction surveys. Now, some companies build these in as an everyday part of their business. So they may give you a feedback form to rate your experience and give any comments you have on every single visit, which is fantastic. But please remember, there's no point putting all the effort in creating a survey or building in regular feedback measures if you're not going to do anything with the data. Whenever you're planning any form of research, make sure you build in some time to look at the results and maybe analyse and act on what you've learnt. Otherwise, it could be a huge waste of effort. So here's a list of things that I think you need to think about. Really take time to define what you need to know. What are your main goals for getting this survey out? Once you start, it's easy to want to ask a million questions because you get started on one, then you think, oh, that would be really good to know. But ideally, a survey should be around 5 to 10 questions maximum to make it short and sweet for people to fill in. So really pinpoint the questions that are going to give you the information that you can actually do something with. Filter what you need to know versus what you'd like to know. I always ask when I'm putting together a questionnaire, how am I going to use the answer to that question? And if I don't know, then I'll just take that question out. Decide how many questions is realistic for your target audience and how they're completing it. So if you're going to ask somebody to fill it in at point of sale when they've just actually paid for the goods and you know, are still at the till, then clearly it's going to need to be shorter than if it's something that they can take away or do at their leisure. Decide how you're going to send it out, like we've said, paper or something like Microsoft Forms that Si demonstrated. And don't forget to come up with an exciting title or headline to make it more encouraging for them to fill it in. Decide your question format, as Si showed: multiple choice, drop down menus, sliding scales, open questions, comment boxes. Always think about how you're going to analyse the data, because fixed answers are much easier to analyse than open-ended questions, but open-ended questions can be so valuable depending on what it is that you actually want to know. Make sure you schedule in time for analysis, as we've mentioned, and after you've written the questions, before you send it straight out, I always leave a questionnaire for a while, even if it's just a quick cup of coffee, and then come back, because as you read it a second time, sometimes questions that were so clear when you wrote them, you come back and you think, what did I actually mean? So always check for clarity. And then once you've reviewed it a second time, send it to some other people in your organisation or friends or close colleagues. Ask them to review it to make sure they understand the question and answer options too. The last thing you want is to send the questionnaire out, analyse the results and think, actually, people didn't understand this question. That's why it's so confusing. Decide if you want to incentivise the survey, and don't forget, if you're collecting personal information, then make sure you are complying with the GDPR guidelines. And finally, just think about after you've sent the survey, what do you want to do after that point? Is there any follow-up to be done, or do you want to just send a simple thank you for filling it in? In closing, it's important to say that customer surveys are always useful, but their importance is much bigger at the moment because we're all in the unknown because of the pandemic. So that's why some of the more switched on businesses are actually using surveys to help shape how they reopen. As an example, I received a survey from a restaurant that we often frequent, asking questions that will help steer their business going forward. So the questionnaire asked how long would it be before we felt confident to eat in with them again versus just having takeaway, what we'd be comfortable with in terms of menus, payments, etc. It was just 7 short questions, but it really made me feel valued, and I'm sure would have given them huge insight into the best way forward. And let's face it, as business owners, we can either ask or we can guess. I know which I'd sooner make important decisions on.
Colette, thank you so much for that. That's very insightful about how to survey and the best, the best types of questions to ask, the best formats to use. But absolutely, definitely, it's a brilliant time to look at what our customers want from us and what they expect from us.